Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. Sorry about a little technical issue there, setting up the recording here, but glad to have you on the call. We're looking forward to going through this office hours with you, covering some important things on the revenue front, building on what we went over the last couple of weeks. If you're new, any questions that you have, post them in your chat window. You'll see a little mock-up here on your screen. Just click the little talk bubble and post them if you want to say hello, ask any specific questions. We'll try to address it in the chat or at the end of the call. So as we get going, we're going to talk a little bit about the importance of presentation styles. This is really just an introduction. This is not meant to be comprehensive, but just an important component of selling digital given the breadth and depth of what's available as a publisher to sell. We're going to talk about the getting to $3,000 a month in digital sales plan for any site. If you're already established and you already have revenue and you're already growing, you can get much higher than that. But this is get to that first $3,000 a month in digital revenue level. And some different content plans, because as you'll see, or as you may be familiar, content and revenue are intimately connected. And when you do it the right way, they build each other in the process, especially online. So we're going to dive in, and I want to be a little facetious here, but also very serious. You want to use repetition to drive home the point. And I say this in part because some of the things you're going to see over the next few slides are a little repetitive of the previous week's office hours, but also there's a lot of data that we're trying to communicate, a lot of information we want you to digest. And the same will be true as you're selling digital. You know, it's easy to sell a print ad where you can see it, you can look at it, there's 3 sizes, and that's it. On digital, you have 14 things to sell that can run on multiple different URLs or platforms or whatever. And so you want to be repetitive so that they can get the important points. So let's start by a quick rundown of the things that you can sell on digital. If you've read the 14 revenue opportunities blog post listed below, this will absolutely be repetitive. So let's start with the basics. These are things that most publishers are in some way, shape, or form familiar with, that they're able to execute on their own. Whether they do execute them effectively on their own is a separate issue, but banner ads, we always talk about them as being the least interesting thing you have to sell, but they are part of the equation, and when done right, they're very effective. Paid placement and content sponsorships and site sponsorships. The last 2 weeks were all about this, all about ways to drive revenue and content together, and really hitting the ground running. We're going to talk a little bit more today. Every local site should have a directory and a calendar and articles. Turns out that the business directory and the event calendar are fantastic opportunities not only to build content and social media engagement and SEO, but to build revenue. Don't forget these. They're simple, they're small, but in cumulative, they can be significant revenue. Obviously, email is still a powerful distribution channel. Email and social is sort of the sexy option. Email is still more effective when done right. And of course, the two work together nicely. And finally, coupons and deals. Lots of different approaches, from the full Groupon approach to highlighting local deals in the area to anywhere in between. But there's a lot of things that you can do out there. And there's some things that you can sell that you may not be familiar with. As much as we talk about social promotions and contests, you're clearly familiar with what the premise is here. It's some sort of giveaway tied to either a sweepstakes or a voting contest that's promoted heavily across the internet, including social media, so they go viral. Now, you can sell these, and many publishers have a lot of success. Locable will obviously help you either with the sales or the fulfillment, because there's a bit of an art and a bit of a science that goes into this, and often it's just a lot of work for publishers to deal with. The things that are often not on the radar, we have talked about these in the past, but we'll quickly revisit. Audience extension, your ability to sell advertising that will appear on other websites, national websites. Now, obviously, your local advertisers don't care about reaching people, so these ads can be geographically targeted to zip codes. So you can sell a campaign that runs on a portfolio of sites, including, say, Better Homes and Gardens or Car and Driver magazine, and only reaches people in the 2 zip codes your advertiser wants to reach. You're getting paid for agency-like services, like an ad agency. You're providing value. The Impact Marketing Suite, obviously, is something we've talked about, something Locable's building for local businesses. It's a rolling out here in the coming months, changes fundamentally how local websites work for small businesses and how they sit at the foundation of their marketing efforts. This is something that you can not only sell and can drive and earn revenue from, but elevates your digital presence because it's all networked together. It really is creating a social network out of disparate websites. And finally, web development. Anyone that has advanced needs, whether it's e-commerce or you name it, you can solve that problem. I make a point of being able to go out and talk to a prospect, an advertiser, and you can ask, what do you need to do? What do you want to do? What are your goals? And they say, well, I really love to do this. Whatever this is, your answer should be, oh, we can help with that. And whether it's you or with a partner, you can deliver value, and of course, you can drive revenue. So why do we start with community sponsorships? And again, we've revisiting for repetition's sake. So if you're familiar with In-N-Out on the western side of the U.S., you see that their menu is incredibly simple. It's here on your screen. You've got shakes and then a set of other drinks you can order. They sell a lot of stuff. They're incredibly profitable. And this posted menu is not exhaustive. But what it does is it gives you fewer options. If you give someone 20 options, they freak out. If you give them 2, it's not enough. If you give them a number of options, it's really easy for them to make a decision because they feel like there's enough variability that they can be informed without being overwhelmed. You can focus on the value prop. When you go to a burger place, they don't sort of get caught up in the details. Too often, publishers, especially print publishers, although online-only publishers fall prey to this as well, get caught up in the details of an ad campaign or the person has been sold on the core premise. If I don't want burgers, the fact that I can get fries with that, the fact that I can get, tomato and lettuce on my burger doesn't matter. So you proposition first. And it's really the beginning of the conversation. It's a way to help someone acclimate to what you have to offer. But as is the case in In-N-Out, it's not exhaustive. You've got a whole host of things that you have available to sell. And it's really about starting that conversation and helping somebody navigate. Now, in the case of In-N-Out, it's a secret menu. In the case of your business, it's not a secret, but it's not the thing you put forth right away. Now, as we continue, community sponsors, again, we're rehashing a little bit from last week for the purpose of repetition and to demonstrate importance. Community sponsorships is really a great way to sell a sponsorship of your site. And basically, activities of what you do. It can include everything from a premium directory listing to recognition on every page. That's what you see here on the right. No matter where I go, I can see here's the sponsors. Here are the people that make this possible. Values alignment there. The other piece of recognition is creating graphics, creating some sort of iconography that you can provide to these people that they can show off on their website or their blog or share with social media to say, hey, I am proud, as the lineman, I am proud to be a sponsor of this, and there's benefit to them in that recognition. Obviously, you've got a slew of banner ad opportunities and at least a snapshot ad. And if you're not familiar with the various ad types available or suggested, there's other material that we have on that. Again, a whole series of sponsored content opportunities from promoted posts like articles to sponsored guides to featured events, and again, something that they can talk about. This is meant to be an exclusive club, and this is something I want to drive home. I had a conversation with a publisher and their sales team this week, and when you're out selling, especially digital, where you're trying to sell these exclusive opportunities, whether it's exclusive sometimes they give away, or the exclusive sponsorships of the site, this is not for everyone. They're meant to be more expensive. They're meant to be select. You can't have 100 businesses, 200 businesses be your site sponsors. It'd be a joke. Or in normal ads, you want to sell as many as you can, but you're looking for that core. So if you go to someone and you can say, hey, we're looking for the top 10 businesses who really are community oriented, and when I thought of that, I thought of you, if they immediately take it away. Don't try to sell them. Say, oh, you know what? No problem. We can move on. There's a lot of other things we can do. This is really an exclusive group, and frankly, we're going to sell it anyways. That helps them realize the value, the importance, and the significance. You're not asking for spare change here. You're giving them a terrific opportunity. If they push back, No problem. It's meant to be exclusive. Now, I'm going to hand the reins over to Ryan to walk through the ask. Again, we did it last week. We're going to hit it again today. We want you to see how simple this can be to go out and simply walk through questions, a little bit of the conversation to introduce digital and to get things rolling.
Thanks, Brian. So, the important thing to remember here is you're already out having conversations with prospective advertisers and in some cases existing advertisers. So you want to make sure to, bring up digital in every conversation. It takes less than 20 seconds to make the initial ask. I like to talk to my fictional character, Mr. Bill, so I'll say, hey, Mr. Bill, we're starting to do some really interesting things online to reach the audience that you want to reach. Can I tell you a little bit more about that? Now, you see here that I didn't read off the slide completely. You got to make it your own, find what is comfortable for you, but it ends in, can we talk a little bit more about digital in essence? And Brian wants to chime in.
I wanted to suggest one other variation of this. So, and this is important for you to test different variations within your market and your own style. So we were talking, that same publisher and sales group that I mentioned earlier, and we were talking about how sometimes when you come at somebody and start talking to them about digital advertising, because there's such a knowledge gap from where they are as a small business owner to where they should be to effectively market their business, a lot of times these walls go up right away. Whoa, I'm going to have to think about what SEO is and how social media works. And it's so overwhelming. But if they're an advertiser, if they're already a print advertiser, they already know your audience, they already are engaged, you might want to try a different tack. So I'm going to quickly demonstrate this. So you just call up and you simply say, hey, Mr. Bill, we've introduced a new program. And this new program has some pretty cool attributes. It's going to help you reach our audience in some really cool ways. Now, I'm not going to say online. I'm going to skip that part. It can help you reach our audience in really cool ways. It sort of builds on the other stuff that we've done with you in the past or that we've talked about in the past. And we can do it by just adding, $200, $300, $400 a month to whatever you're currently spending. For most advertisers, that's a fraction of it. And again, the numbers don't matter for this example. The point is, you're just reinforcing the same value proposition that you had before, but it's more of it. It's more unique. It's more engaging. But you don't get to the digital part until they go, wow, so I really love what I'm already doing with you. I'm spending $1,000 a month, or I'm spending $1,200, or I'm spending $400, or whatever. And you're saying that I can do some more stuff to sort of double down for a fraction of that price? That's okay. So tell me more. What does this mean? And so instead of immediately hitting them up with something that may be intimidating, now you're hitting them up with something that they're going to be more receptive about, so that you can then come in and say, well, let's talk about the various things we have available. So depending on how technical, how open your audience is, you're going to want to play with these. On the other hand, you may have advertisers who are all about social, way more sophisticated, or maybe not sophisticated, but really excited about trends. And you may want to walk in the total other side and be like, these are game-changing new technologies we can do for you. So play with these asks, but keep them simple. You're not selling stats, you're not selling traffic, you're not selling audience figures so much as audience core demographics until you get past this first stage. So definitely play with some of the style.
Yeah, so the next step, once they say, hey, yeah, I want to hear more about this, and if Brian, I don't know if my slides are behind, but if you can go ahead and go forward one, you want to start talking about the story, all right? And the story is a lot of the things that Brian already just mentioned. It's, hey, we're working with, if you want to reference Locable, or just say, we're working with a new partner that is helping us do some things online. They're helping us build our audience and extend our audience, doing more of the same thing that we're doing in print. They're going to help us substantially increase over the next 12 months. And we're looking for a few businesses to help be a sponsor of this new initiative we're doing, to kind of play off of what Brian was saying before. And then you can kind of go back and kind of step back and you say, well, let me tell you what that means. And you can talk about the community sponsors, and you can talk about, aligning the value of the community with their business. It shows their support for the community. We're building this site, for an example, we're building a website for the community, by the community. That's kind of our overarching theme for those that work with Locable, is we're building community sites here, resource for everybody to find information about what they care about most. So you can play up the fact that, hey, we're building that, we're creating these values, and if you want to be associated with this, the community sponsor is the best opportunity. And then you can kind of transition the conversation into, since we're just for those that are just getting started, what I'm about to say wouldn't apply to the more established sites, but if you're just getting started or you're web only, or if you're even just getting started with the site and you have the print component, none of that really matters. But the point is, hey, we're going to lock you in now, and you're going to get a ton of value out of this over the next 12 months as we continue to grow our audience and the engagement and the conversations that are happening online. So you really, it doesn't really matter how you say that. Again, this is just the example that we kind of outline in bullet form. And, when sometimes when we try to put this into a presentation, it comes out of us reading off the slide. And it doesn't really matter the order. Craft the story, make it comfortable for you, lean on Locable if you want, in terms of, hey, if you're not comfortable selling digital, be like, hey, well, that doesn't matter. We have somebody that we've hired to do this for us, and they know what they're doing. They're going to handle everything. You can even talk to them if you'd like. You have a lot of different ways to go about this. And if you flip over to the next slide, Brian, then it becomes, you kind of wrap up that story with, does that sound like something you're interested in? Now, at this point, it's just listening to the response. You'll get a few people, like Brian said, that will be really interested and say yes, and you can say, great, I know you're going to be happy with the decision. But if they say no, it's fine, right? Brian said it's not for everyone, but that doesn't mean the conversation's over now. You can say, I understand it's not for everyone. We have a lot of different ways of helping you reach your goals. Can we talk about that a little bit more? What are you trying to accomplish? And then again, for those that have joined us on previous office hours, or for those affiliates on the call that have gone through training, that it's now about listening to what they're trying to accomplish. We go into a traditional solution selling technique, which we're not going to get into today, and you try to close them on, maybe it's just a banner ad, or maybe it's just an advertorial, whatever group of things you can put together that'll help them accomplish their goals. You can start to get a little bit more customized. And at that point, if they still say no, the conversation is still not over. You should end every conversation with, well, at the very least, you need to get you should at least claim your free listing, in our directory, and for $25 a month, you'll actually get featured on our homepage as well. And we're going to talk about in a second, what the value of getting a upgraded listing is. But that's kind of the process we recommend you going through. Start with the community sponsor. Some people will take you up on that. If not, be a little bit more customized. Create that relationship with them that brand makes you the expert, and you're trying to help them. Make it about them, not about you. And then end with, well, at the very least, you need to be doing this, and this is why. And if after that they still say no, that's going to happen from time to time. It's not a big deal. You go on to the next one, and you have the same conversation.
The great thing is there's always something that is sort of free and beneficial that you have to offer. So regardless of your approach, you're able to deliver value to the conversation. So for that reason, you always want to make sure you're talking about digital or digital advertising in particular. So whether you're a print rep that is going out and trying to grow your book of business, or you're an editor and you're out covering a story, and it happens to be that this story is some backstory on local business. If you're there and you're covering that business and you don't mention that that business has opportunities to reach your audience beyond the story you're planning to write, not only are you leaving money on the table, but you're doing them a disservice. They may not realize that there's affordable advertising opportunities. So do them a favor, do yourself a favor. Make sure you say, obviously I'm here to talk about this, but if you're looking to grow your reach, grow your revenue, there's some pretty cool things that we can do. Leave it at that. Let them respond. Now, as we transition, those of you who love cold calling, you're not going to be thrilled with where we're taking this, but thank goodness there's not that many crazy people out there. Cold calling is not fun, and it's not as effective as warm leads. And so there's some things we're going to talk about that help you transition from cold calling to making sure that every lead that you have is warm, and that anyone you want to reach, you can do that through a warm process as long as you have just a little touch of patience. So as we talk about the things that you do on your site, we're going to come at this from two directions, right? Content is a great vehicle for driving audience. It's also a great way to engage local businesses. So we're going to come at it first from the revenue side, and then we're going to come at it from the content side. So the first thing you can do, you have a directory. use it. If you want to reach someone, what better way than set up a directory listing for them, send them an invite to claim it, or maybe even give them an upgraded listing for a few months, throw them a bone, send them an email, and send it over and say, hey, here's your listing, check it out, great way to be on our site, etc. And all of a sudden, you're able to get people into the system and working with you in some capacity. There's something you can do as a follow-on, which I'll share in a minute. The next is if they're a restaurant, if they're if they're a theater or some other sort of business that has an upcoming event, post in your calendar. This is, again, good content for you. Stuff you can share to social media. Post it in there. You get benefit out of it. And again, you can then notify them, whether you send them a direct email, whether you include the event reference on the invite for the directory listing, whether you post it to their own Facebook page. And we've covered all these various techniques in the past to grow your traffic. Anyways, now all of a sudden you're notifying them and they feel like, oh yeah, this publication, this website, this is actually trying to help my business. If there's a story, write an article, whether it's a guide, local restaurants or restaurants on Main Street or whatever, and then you share it with them. Again, you're creating content that your readers want to see. You're sharing it to the business owners, pardon me, that have a stake in the game, and you're throwing them a bone. And oh, by the way, they're going to share it to their audience, which drives more traffic to you. You're building goodwill. So even if you don't know the manager of such and such a restaurant, if you write about them, then you know them and they know you. And again, the guide is an option. And you may even do a social promotion. This is a little more intensive, so it's up to you on how far down this path you want to go. Finally, you may want to do a special column or a special topic if you wanted to sort of every week profile a different restaurant. And all of this builds momentum and it creates a great amount of content. And you might be thinking, well, if I start giving this stuff away, how am I going to get them to pay for sponsored content? And the reality is, look, if you're going to do a profile of every restaurant in your community, there's no inherent advantage to being included other than you're not excluded, right? So you're going to level the playing field there, and it gives you more good content. So these things are really meant to move your business forward across the board. Now, let's talk about the benefits. Right out of the gate, it aligns what you're doing with the business goals and shows that your target audience is important. Now, I'm not suggesting, I would tell you don't share any statistics with the business about the readership or engagement with any given post. Just not address that question because you're not selling clicks or impressions on a post that you give away. What you're showing is alignment. You're demonstrating that you're there for that business owner. The next is it gives you a reason to approach a business. So calling someone up on the phone saying, hey, this is Brian with such and such publication, I want to sell you something, puts people on their heels. Calling up 2 weeks after I sent an invite to create a listing, say, hey, this is Brian with such and such publication. We sent you an invitation to claim your listing. Wanted to see if you have any questions I can answer about that. I want to help you out, get the most out of your listing. And oh, by the way, I don't know if you're aware, but there's a lot of great things that we can do. It immediately disarms the situation and it changes it from a cold lead to a warmer lead. I think this is probably one of the most powerful and simple things your sales team can do to drive more action with what would otherwise be a cold lead. And there's many approaches. You could use the same thing for an article or an event or whatnot. You can also do something similar if you have a main street or a main thoroughfare. You might want to take an afternoon, a beautiful afternoon ideally in the spring, and walk Main Street. Go in, talk to the shop owners, troll for content. Let them know you can set up a directory listing, walk them through the process, get them acclimated as though it's a tool that they can use, and then a couple weeks later, follow up. This is a great way to build engagement, and what you want to do as well, and this is more of a general statement, is you want to create both scarcity and urgency. People can always wait to buy an ad. But if there's a limited number of people who can sponsor your site, sponsor a given column, sponsor a guide, sponsor a social promotion, clock's ticking. It's okay if you don't want to do it. Valentine's Day is coming. But if you miss Valentine's Day and you're a jeweler, it's another year until you have a chance to tap into that as a revenue stream. So you really want to leverage those things as part of your approach. And again, if you're working within our system, there's multiple levels of upgraded listings, and there's lots of benefits. At a minimum, people should have a free listing, and which we call Express. It's claimed. And walking them through this process will show more engagement in the directory and ultimately help you be more populated. You can also, again, throw in some free listings, free premium listings, so that you can make everything look more active and more engaging. And nobody likes to be the first one on the dance floor. So if you can do this, you'll actually make more money from other people by seeding it a little bit. So it's a win-win. Social promotions and guides. Oh, Ryan's flagging me down.
Yeah, if you go back to that last slide real quick, something that comes up a lot is like, when you're talking about the directory listing, is why do I want a directory listing with you, the local publisher, instead of someone like Yelp or Yellow Pages? And I always like to point out that they're not mutually exclusive. You should have both. There's clear value in having a Yellow Pages or a Yelp listing because they have the national recognition. But those sites can't do something that you as a publisher can do, and that's promote them to a local audience, an engaged local audience through your content. So when you create a guide, you can reference that business. That's what we mean when we say linked articles and events. You can promote it to your Facebook fan base, which is mostly local. Yelp and Yellow Pages don't have those things, so there's quite a bit of value of being in your directory, and those are the things you should focus on, right? You're going to get some local SEO out of it, search engine optimization, by presenting the factual information. You can do that through just a free express listing. But to have all this other stuff, the articles, the promotion of it, the prominence on the homepage for the premium listings, those are the things that become incredibly valuable that other directory services can't offer. So play that aspect of it up. As you're going through and telling the story and getting into the close, and you get down to the bottom and you're talking about directory listings, these are the kinds of things that you should be highlighting. There's just being in your directory, in a publisher's directory, is going to be much more valuable over the long run than some of the other directories that are out there.
Totally agree. It's really about being part of the content strategy and not a standalone, sideshow. Likewise, social promotions and guides, part of the content strategy, and we talk about this at length. Social promotions are ways for you to get paid to drive incredible engagement with your brand on social media in particular. The example on the left is a giveaway. Clearly, Jakers with a $75 grand prize gift card. They weren't giving away the farm, but it's really a fun way to get the community engaged. In this case, the publisher had us run 3 of these over a 6-week period. Each lasted about a week, and the cumulative effect was about 1,000 likes, 250 email opt-ins, and of course, dramatically increased engagement during the period. So they got paid to grow their audience. Pretty sweet. Guides are very similar in the effect. Their content, many of them can be repeated annually as they're cyclical, like the Holiday Light Show, although there's many opportunities that you can just sort of make up as you go. And in this case, sponsorships can sell for anything. We sold a couple here for $50 a piece, and again, using a lot of local engagement to make this a fun piece of content. There's no CPM, there's no how many page views you have. It's, hey, this is something you can sponsor. You can be the official sponsor of the local Holiday Light Show. How does that sound? Pretty simple approach to selling, and it complements your traditional content very, very nicely. Now, Ryan's going to talk through some of the launch plans, and again, those of you who've been through launch training recently have seen a variation of this, but we're going to rehash it in getting you to $3,000 a month quickly. If you're already there, you're already established, please don't fixate on $3,000. This is symbolic of what you can do at any stage to quickly grow revenue with some unique packaging and solutions.
Yeah, to just reiterate what Brian is saying, this is a symbolic number. You can easily make 6 figures in digital, doing a little bit at a time. But for those that are just getting started, if you try to jump all the way to thinking about that, it can quickly become overwhelming. So when you break it down and you follow the story and the closed scenario that we outlined earlier, you're starting with community sponsors. It is totally reasonable to charge somewhere between $75, $200, even $400 or more for the more established sites per month for the community sponsorship. If you're interested in how we came up with those numbers, you should definitely check out last week's office hours where we covered that in more detail. But when you do the math out, if you have 4 to 10 of those, you're going to be somewhere between $300 and $2,000 per month in revenue possibility for community sponsors. When you put this into perspective, the average publisher has somewhere between 40 and 120 existing advertisers in print. Getting 4 to 10 of those to become a community sponsor, it almost sounds pretty, too good to be true to some extent. But think about banks, real estate agents, lawyers, doctors, health practitioners, any of those people that just like to remain top of mind. They're clearly invested in the community. They've started a practice there. Those are great targets for the community sponsor. Going down, following the close process we outlined, the next thing is you have a conversation about solution selling. So as, opportunities present themselves, you can sprinkle in the social promotions, you can sprinkle in some guides. You may end up, and this is certainly not the topic for this office hours, but you can pretty much put any kind of custom package together you want to help them meet their needs, and then you end the conversation with upselling premium listings, again, targeting 40 to 80. If you do the math out here, you can see that you can get somewhere around $2,000 for the community sponsorships, another, 1 or 2 from upselling premium listings, and that doesn't really even include the other stuff that we sprinkled in. So getting to $3,000 per month, doing a little bit at a time is the important thing. We talk endlessly about the fact that digital is much more profitable in print because you don't have the same cost structure. So while the gross number might not be as big as what you're doing in print, the bottom line number is much more impactful. So keep that in mind. Do a little bit at a time, and over 12 or 24 months or whatever the time frame is, this can turn into a significant amount of profitability for you. Brian's going to take over from here.
Again, repetition. Growing audience is great. Growing audience is important. But the historical approach of growing audience first, sort of with the hope of driving revenue, is it's outdated, and it's frankly wasteful. So we don't love the traditional process. We like to go revenue first. And when you sell site sponsorships and social promotions and guides, you're getting paid to create a product. I want you to think about that. You're getting paid to create a product that the community wants. Then you create that product, the content, the engagement, the et cetera. And then you've got more products to sell, like banner ads, right? A banner ad doesn't really have value without traffic. Site sponsorship does. Sponsored content does, because if an article goes viral and it's sponsored, it doesn't matter how much content or traffic you had before. So these things are great ways for you to engage, to grow, deliver value, and basically do it on someone else's dime. And when you give them a good deal, if you charge them a little more than what you necessarily deserve today, but a lot less than you'll deserve tomorrow, if they sponsor it for 12 months, they get a great deal out of the process. And if you have the right game plan and the right plan of action and understanding on how to execute, you can deliver, just like you already have. So we're going to transition. We're going to talk about these from the editorial side, right? Because this can be pretty daunting, but we're going to pick up the pace here. So obviously you need to create a lot of articles, and print articles are great. Traditional web articles are great, but if you don't supplement it with some of these things that are sort of more catchy, you're missing an opportunity, and it's frankly easy content. Obviously, articles in a vacuum get very little traffic. There's many a print publisher who's got a great readership in print, posts an article online and gets viewed 25, 50, 100 times. That's not the way it should work. So social media needs to be a part of your distribution along with email. It needs to be thoughtful and planned and regimented and grown. And these need to be done as campaigns. So prior week, we talked about things like the pumpkin patch guide. Well, wouldn't you know it, seasons are thematic, and there's story arcs you can tie to that. If you're going to do a pumpkin patch guide, how about couple a trunk or treat guide? How about couple in some reader engagement around favorite fall activities? And all of a sudden, you've got themes and campaigns running. And community outreach is clearly a part of this. What's a nonprofit that's tied to Valentine's Day? What's some restaurants that are great opportunities for Valentine's Day? The super high end. Some that are sort of hole in the wall or greasy spoon, the fun ones to revisit from when you were, a teenager or whatever. You can build out various themes, and you basically are giving people a reason to come back. Again, I'll quote Stephen Jack at Only Oswego. You're creating a useful addiction. You're doing the digging for them and presenting fun, informative, life impacting, albeit often in sort of entertainment ways, but life impacting experiences. Clearly drive a lot of traffic, and it stimulates growth. And we've got this plan of action. When you're selling, you can sell with conviction, because selling stats is boring. Even if you're huge, it's boring. But selling a story, selling something that's authentic and different and sets you apart and that resonates with people, man, that's fun. It's fun to see people light up at what you're building. And of course, it gives your sales team a reason to follow up. Nice double win for you. And finally, it ultimately leads to people coming to you with stories, whether it's actually, surfacing tips on news, whether it's highlighting, the local boy made good in the community, or whether it's just sharing their events and their directory listings. It gets people engaged with you because it puts you more like a, local bulletin board. Not in terms of the quality of the content, but in the approach psychologically. And that's where you want to be. You want to have the content so you can choose what to use and how to use it. So, high level, three types of articles. Articles are the foundation, but it's just one leg of the three-legged local content stool: articles, events, and business information. The one leg of articles is made up obviously of original content. So everything from print content to original reporting to you name it, it's original. Wouldn't you know it? Original content takes a lot of work. So you're limited in the amount that you can do. And it's been said by, I don't know, I think I read a quote from someone at the New York Times, or perhaps it was Washington Post, but they said if your business isn't in the curation business, you're not in media. And so curation must be a part of it. There's simply too much good other stuff going on that you don't have to create solely from scratch, that you can comment on, that you can curate, and you can turn other people's articles into guides, or you can do commentaries on the curation, or you can do another take on it. We've talked before about NPR's 9 types of engaging content and how some people might take, say, an elected official and do a reporting on them from one angle, and you want to come at it from a place explainer. How did he get to where he got? Give some backstory that led up to the situation, or something about his personality or personal profile or whatever. It gives you different ways to approach the same content. And then finally, the syndicated, and this is obviously things like family features, tends to skew towards lifestyle to a great extent, although if you wanted to invest in an AP feed, if you wanted to invest in a New York Times feed, you can clearly syndicate content. And you might be thinking to yourself, if this content exists on the AP or the New York Times or family features, why would I want to share content that people could just go and see on their own? I want you to think about that for a minute, and I want you to think about what Facebook is. When you personally look at Facebook, in addition to people posting pictures of their kids or things that have gone on, what do? They're sharing content from Washington Post and New York Times and YouTube. Could you find that on your own? Yeah. Would you have? Probably not. You don't even know to look for it. And so you become a certified vetter of third-party content, and many of your audience will find value in that. So this should be your content ecosystem from an articles perspective, and then broader a part of the article, event, business directory, and business information ecosystem. So with all of this said, what are some launch plans? What are some things you can do? How much time do you want to invest? What are your goals? Ryan's going to walk you through these three variations, which really are about aligning your activities with the best path to get to where you want to go.
Yeah, so, like everything else we've talked about on this call, this is just a guide, right? It's up to you to kind of figure out how much time you want to spend and where you want to spend it. However, we talked about the core editorial activities, and each one of these plans includes those core components. So you can kind of come in here and based on how much time you want to put in, decide which track best suits you. We always like to talk about the gym membership analogy. Some people want to just go and get healthy. Other people want to spend a little bit more time and get in really good shape. And other people want to make it their, livelihood and become a bodybuilder. Again, which plan you choose is ultimately up to you, but it's always going to include some articles. As you can see, the Get Healthy plan is 1 a week. Now, that's probably one original article a week, just because, original content is always going to be better than the other stuff, or at least is going to be more likely to perform better. But to get in shape and become a bodybuilder, that's increasing the number of articles per week. At the bodybuilder level, you're doing a couple per day. So you're going to want to begin to supplement that with curated content and syndicated content. Then everything else in here is just about driving, traffic and engagement, using Facebook to share those articles, making sure it goes out in a newsletter so that people can interact with you in the way that they choose. the campaigns are important, mostly as a way to build your audience, but also as a reason to, get the sales funnel rolling, and community outreach, which, we didn't really cover in all that much detail here on this call, but we've covered it in the past. It's probably one of the biggest components of what you can do. You want to be reaching out to the businesses when they're referenced. You want to be reaching out to local groups and nonprofits and the local chamber of commerce, and basically building those relationships so that the content comes to you, so that you have a relationship with those business owners and decision makers, and that should probably be 40 to 50% of your effort if you're looking at these weekly, hourly numbers that we've come up with. If anyone on the call has done the program overview with us, you'll probably recognize the plan in the purple. That's the one we highlight there that you can get up to $75,000 to $100,000 a year if you follow the strategy, posting content and following the sales strategy and building a little bit every month. So with that said, this is something that supports the sales effort. You don't have to be doing this for any amount of time before you can begin selling, as Brian mentioned earlier, because it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy that you're going out, you're selling something, and then you're delivering on the engagement end of it. But if you're planning for the long haul, you want to kind of find a plan and stick to it and hold yourself accountable to it. This will help you reach those larger goals that we've alluded to throughout.
And I want you to focus as we wrap up on what the title of this slide is and what the time commitments or expectations or whatnot are. This is for people who are print publishers who want to make a concerted effort on digital, or for people who are looking at launching a web-only site and perhaps doing it as a side job as they ramp up. Now, obviously, as you grow, these numbers will transition. You post more articles, you'll do more outreach, you'll do more. And for those of you that already sort of are in place and already have a site and it's a full-time job, all these things are going to be bigger. And the upside's bigger to a great extent, right? But this is about getting you going in a stepwise approach. But I'll also say, for those of you who are already in a full-time capacity, look at the things that we've got listed here. What are the things that you could fill in the gaps on? You may be spending 40, 50, 60 hours a week. What are you neglecting? Sometimes it's really easy to get really busy and forget to be productive. And this is meant to be a quick stopgap to say, are you doing enough community outreach? If you're just pumping out a bunch of articles and you're doing a great job writing, but you're not doing community outreach, not only are your articles not going to reach as many people because you don't tap into those social environments, but you're not making your life easy. If you get the community on board and you get people posting for you, whether it's the local Parks and Rec that posts, a weekly thing, whether it's the high school that's posting a weekly thing or whatever, or even just coming to you with content and posting their events and whatever, if they're not doing those things, you're always doing things the hard way. This breakdown is about doing things smarter. Sure, it takes hard work, but it's doing the right things with the right tools, the smart way, so that you're building momentum and you're not always recreating the wheel every day when you wake up in the morning. So be strategic, think about what your goals are, and again, you can make good money without a full-time investment in digital, especially if you're a print publisher or someone who already has a lot of advertiser relationships. So in conclusion, a lot of ways to drive revenue. For those of you who are looking for more help, obviously the standard membership includes all of the things that we do, from tech to training to coaching at a low level to access to all of our sources. If you're looking for something more, need help, you don't have the staff, the expertise, the time, the personal passion, whatever, that's where the Publisher Concierge comes in. Whether you need us to help on the web editor front, creating content as a community manager, engaging the community, or on the digital sales front, either as the sales coach through our intensive 3-month program, or the digital solution specialist, which is us selling for you. We want to fill in the gaps that you have. You should be making real money online. You should be serving your community. You should be helping local businesses. If there's something keeping you from doing that, we want to chat with you about how we can solve that problem. So hopefully you enjoyed the topic today. If you missed the last couple of weeks, strongly suggest you go revisit them. I think there's a lot of actionable data there that you can use, and hope to see you all on an upcoming call in the future. Thanks a lot.